Scott here, your loan man. It's great to be with you. I want to cover the topic of refinancing and specifically some of the common mistakes that I see people make. To begin, let's think through what a refinance actually is, because I'm sure there are people watching this video who have never been through the process. All we're doing is we're taking the existing debt and we're restructuring it to put you in a more advantageous situation. So what are some examples as to good reasons why you might want to consider doing this? Well, if I can lower the interest rate for a client, say from 8% to 6.5%, I think we would all agree that without any more information, it sounds like a pretty good idea so far, right? Lowering those monthly mortgage payments. But you might also want to pay off other debt, like high interest rate credit cards, send a child to college, start a new business, maybe invest in other property, looking for rental income, that kind of thing. Those are all really valid reasons why you might want to consider refinancing. Now, if the goal is to take some equity, meaning borrow more money, and spend it on the property itself to increase its value, we need to be careful here. This can be a double-edged sword. We have to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to improve the appeal of the property and the value of the property to more people, and not just customizing the home to our own personal likes. This is a mistake I see people make. One of the best things you could do is increase the square footage of the property, finishing the basement, adding an ADU, an additional dwelling unit, maybe putting a renter in the property, generating rental income. Those are all great ways to improve a property's value. So assuming that we've thought this through all the way and that we're actually sure that refinancing is in the best interest, well, where do we go from here? What's the next step? How do you pick the right person to work with? Okay, so as soon as you buy your first home, you're going to get solicited. You're going to get cold called. You're going to get solicited in the mail. And you need to be careful here. They're mostly going to lead with interest rate. This is a red flag that you need to keep in mind. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Somebody calls you, you don't know who they are, they don't know anything about your specific situation, and they're telling you how awesome their interest rate is going to be, that they're going to give you this amazing interest rate. Now, they don't know about your property, they don't know about your credit, they don't know what kind of loan you need, what kind of loan you even qualify for, what you do for a living, and they're already telling you what interest rate you're going to have. I hope that if we think about that, it sounds pretty silly, right? So how do you pick the right person? Well, I would recommend that you reach out to your network of friends and family and seek out a professional. So do you know a real estate attorney or a financial advisor, a realtor that does a lot of business? Those people are going to know the good professionals that are in the mortgage business that they can refer you to. You want to work with someone who is being recommended to you, people who have had a positive experience with this professional. You're trusting them. You're trusting them with your most valuable asset, at least for most of us. Our homes are our biggest expense and our most valuable asset. So be careful and really vet this person out. I would recommend that they be in the business for at least 5 years and try to stay away from the call centers, okay? So then, where do we go from here? All right, so we have our professional. How do we begin to evaluate the options and the costs associated with refinancing? Well, refinancing is expensive, okay? And that's why if you're really only looking for $10,000 or $20,000, probably refinance is not in your best interest. There may be other ways to get your hands on some money, like a no-interest credit card, say for the first 6 or 12 months at Lowe's or Home Depot, and getting your repairs done that way. Okay, because refinances are so expensive, it's really not a good idea to do this for a small amount of money unless you're also significantly improving the interest rate. And I don't care what anybody tells you, okay? Refis are not free and they're not cheap. And why is that? Why is the loan so expensive? Well, aside from the mortgage company, right? They have to verify your income and your employment and your credit worthiness, make sure that you're actually qualified for the loan. They have to appraise the property potentially. There's a lot of work that has to be done. But there's other things that are also necessary, like title and escrow. The title insurance is required by law in most states. There's also a lot of government fees and charges associated with either buying or refinancing a property. These are government expenses that we are not going to be able to get around, and the money for those expenses has to come from somewhere. And there's really only three ways to pay for your refinance or when you buy a home. You can bring money to closing, which of course is what most people do when they buy a property, or you can roll the costs into the loan, meaning you're just borrowing more money against the property. You're tacking the fees onto the loan balance, okay? The other way that it could be paid for is that the mortgage company could pay for it. Well, how does that work? Obviously, they're not doing loans for free, right? So what does that mean? Well, they're actually just raising the interest rate, and you're paying them back over a period of time through your mortgage payments. Is that a good idea? Well, it depends on your specific situation. And this is why you have to slow down and really work with a professional. Let me give you an example. So I have a client who tells me, Scott, look, this is our forever home. We're going to live here for another 20 years. We're going to maybe never sell the property. We're going to pass the property on to our children. We plan to die in this property. And so for someone like that, if I can save them an extra $200, $300, $400 a month and lower mortgage payments, well, they're going to be able to more than recoup the additional fees associated with that approach, potentially, right? So it may take a couple of years to recover the additional cost, but they could save $100,000 or more dollars over the life of a loan, okay? On the other hand, if somebody says, well, I really want a low free cost type loan, even though we know that's not real, right? Because I'm going to sell this property in 2 or 3 years. Well, for most people, I would probably caution them against refinancing at all. This is probably a bad idea, frankly, okay? Unless what you're doing is you're taking the money out of the property, you're spending it on the home itself to increase its resale value, meaning you're going to get a better sales price for your home and you're going to sell it in a couple of years, you're going to get a return on your investment. That might be a wise reason to go ahead and do what I would call a shorter term loan of 2 or 3 years. When you're evaluating the costs and fees associated with the loan, you're going to see a lot of numbers, of course, okay? You're going to see APR, and it's on all the loan documents and all the disclosures. And if you really want to have some fun and you want to mess with your mortgage guy, ask him what APR is and ask him to tell you how to calculate what it is, okay? That'll be a fun test for you. So what is APR? Let's cover that here. So annual percentage rate, okay? So what that means is you add up all the costs and expenses of generating this new loan, all of the fees, and you amortize that over 12 months, over 1 year. And that's what it is. That's how you determine an APR. Well, what do you do with that information? Well, the truth is that this number or calculation is required. It's something that we have to do as a lender, that the federal government requires that all banks and lenders put this on all the loan documents that you're going to have to sign. What do you do with that information? Well, the idea is that it's supposed to help you shop for credit. But in the real world, I haven't found a lot of utility for most people with their APR. What you might want to focus on a little bit more is the actual true interest rate or the note rate, which is the cost of the IOU. What are the monthly payments and what is the interest rate being used to calculate those monthly payments that you're going to be stuck with, okay? And that might be a better thing to focus on. You also should be mindful that shopping for credit is a good idea, okay? I wouldn't recommend getting more than 2 or 3 quotes. That's probably about the right number. There's a lot of fear mongering here about having your credit pulled more than once or twice. Well, what do you do? And this is used to kind of prevent people from shopping. But the truth is that if you're having your credit pulled for a mortgage within 14 days, meaning multiple credit checks within 14 days or less, the system is designed for that to have no adverse effect on your credit score, okay? So that as a consumer, you can shop for credit. All right, so I hope that's helpful to you. Now, obviously, I've been doing mortgages now for a long time, and everybody's situation is unique to their goals and their family and what they want to accomplish. So if you have some questions about your specific needs, feel free to reach out to me. It's been a pleasure.